Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Steve Rao. I serve on the Council of Morrisville, and I'm also the host of Radio Murchie's Leaders and Legends program. So we are today live on the radio on 99.9 FM HD4, 101.9 FM Durham, and 1490 AM. And we are also played in some different cities in the U.S., Baltimore, Philadelphia. So I want to thank Radio Murchie for hosting this live broadcast. For those of you joining on Facebook, we're honored today to have Chris Heagerty. Chris is going to be talking about schools and getting back to school. He served in the North Carolina General Assembly in 2009, 2010, and in 2018, he was appointed to District 7 of the Wake County School Board, replacing the late Kathy Hardestein, and represents all of the town of Morrisville and a little bit of Cary and parts of Northwest Raleigh. So Chris, we welcome you to the show, this live broadcast. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Steve.
Now, before we begin the town hall, the first 12 minutes of this interview will be on the radio. For those of you listening, if you have questions after that time, we'll be taking questions. Today, I'm going to do it a little differently. I have a lot of prepared questions, but we really want to make this for the citizens who have been signed up for this event all around Morrisville and the region. So we're going to let you ask your questions. So we're going to begin the radio interview now for about 12 minutes. After that time, we're going to continue the town hall. If you have any questions, we just ask that you put them in the chat window so that I can ask Chris the question, and that you be respectful as possible. I know there's a lot of frustration out there, and we really want to thank him for taking time out of his very busy schedule to be with us and the citizens of Morrisville today. So we're going to begin. Chris, welcome. So let's dive in this first 12 minutes for really some of the meaty issues. Talk to us a little bit about kids stopped going to school in March when COVID-19 hit, and now the big issue before us is, when are the kids going to go back to school, and how are they going to go back to school? Talk to us a little bit about where we are today.
Thanks, Steve. So when we had to close our school buildings, that was, like you said, back in March. Most of the school districts around us had been closing their buildings. We had been trying to follow all of the advice from our state and local health officials. And by the time we made that decision, the governor came right behind us and then shut down the few remaining schools that were open in North Carolina after that. The shutdown was a lot quicker than we expected. And even though there were plans to try to shift to remote learning, you knew there were a lot of challenges. We had thousands of kids without compatible electronic devices. Many didn't have home internet access. Teachers had to convert a lot of lesson plans over that required a lot of in-person instruction. Think about science labs, music classes, even shop classes or PE classes that would be very hard to duplicate. But we worked hard, we mobilized, we secured and delivered technology into the hands of every student who was identified to need it, mobilized hundreds of school buses to deliver paper lessons, school meals, even Wi-Fi hotspots out to neighborhoods with no internet access. So there's a lot of trial and error, but we learned a lot of lessons. So where we are now is North Carolina is still under a state of emergency. And under that, the governor has laid out a framework for how school districts were allowed to return to school with three general options. He called them Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. So each of these plans would have to follow the guidelines written by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction and North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. So I know you have listeners from other states. In some states, school boards might have a lot more local decision-making autonomy. Here in North Carolina, we have to follow legislation, laws, and also rules and regulations from the North Carolina State Board of Education, North Carolina Department of Instruction, the legislature, and the governor. So briefly, just in case anyone doesn't know, the three plans they talked about, Plan A was a plan where the kids would be able to go back for face-to-face instruction in the school, kids in schools daily with some safety precautions and some social distancing. Plan B was going to have what they called moderate social distancing. I don't think that's an accurate term at all based on the rules. I think it was a lot more required than moderate social distancing, but it would reduce capacity in the schools. So some kids could be in the schools live, others would have to learn at home, and then they would rotate back and forth. And then finally, Plan C, this was full remote learning. This was the scenario we'd follow where no one was allowed back in the schools. It would be all remote learning. So the governor said he would announce a plan, one of these three options, and then school boards sort of had to figure out how to carry it out. And he had the caveat, you could do something more restrictive than his plan. So if he said we were going to have Plan B, the hybrid model, and in your district you had high infection numbers, if you had other health concerns, you could go to full remote. You had that option, but you couldn't go back and say, well, we don't think the threat is as serious, so we want to go back to face-to-face instruction. So those are the rules he set up. But the Plan B, we were kind of waiting to hear what which plan the governor would announce here in Wake County. And we thought there was an announcement coming, and when it didn't come, we decided, well, let's go ahead and we'll adopt plans for every scenario, but we're going to assume that Plan B, the hybrid with some live and some face-to-face instruction, some remote instruction, is probably where he's going to go. And so we started developing a plan for that. And I will tell you that there are a lot of challenges because of the social distancing requirements. If you consider like a typical high school class, I know your son is in high school now, you might have 28 kids in a class, but under the social distancing guidelines, we might have to drop that to like 16 kids. So, maybe 12 kids, depending on the class. Where do you put the others? There's not empty classrooms in the schools where these kids can go, middle schools, etc. And in Wake County, we have a lot of overcrowded schools that are over capacity. Again, some in the Morrisville area are upwards of 120% capacity. So, trying to physically create an environment where kids are arriving at school, you've seen the crowds. How do you keep them 6 feet apart? If we're supposed to screen and take temperatures of every kid entering a school, we have schools that have over 2,000 kids in some, in some of them, taking the temperatures of 2,000 kids before they can arrive in the school buildings. These have been enormous challenges, but we've come up with a plan. We just didn't see logistically how we could get more than about a third of our students back into the buildings and still follow these guidelines. So the governor did announce his plan, and he's in a hard place because counties like Wake County have over 8,000 COVID cases, almost 90 deaths, but then he has other counties in the state where they might only have 10 or 20 cases in the whole county, or maybe just 1 or 2 deaths. So how do you pick a plan to address both situations fairly? I guess he thought with B, it'll give school districts enough discretion to pivot one way or the other. So we went with that hybrid model. And we put out the plans there. We've also offered a virtual academy. So, any families with health concerns that don't feel comfortable returning, if their students are at risk, maybe they live with a family member who's at risk. Some families have elderly parents, some have medical concerns in the family. They'd be able to attend this virtual option. Since we've opened that up, we've had about 30% of our student base. I don't know if it's quite there yet, but it's approaching 30% enroll in that virtual academy option. So that's a good plan because that helps all of those families with any health concerns they have. And then it also reduces the number of kids we have for face-to-face instruction. So hopefully we can social distance and manage that a little bit better.
Okay, so this question just came in, and it's really a good follow-up to when we're going to talk about virtual academy. The question is, Plan C, what are the chances if the governor went to Plan C? And I know you all are meeting on Tuesday about, there's been some press about going to Plan C. When are folks going to know about that, and how does that affect our direction as a school system?
I think that's a very good question. We were moving along under Plan B and figuring out the details for it. And then a lot of the school systems around our area started all shifting from B to C. Durham County schools or Durham Public Schools had a Plan B plan that some people in our district had looked at, and then they announced they were going to C. I think Chapel Hill Carborough went to C. I think some of these are based on some of the infection numbers, the trends we're seeing in the disease. And so we all as school board members basically found out on Twitter and social media, there was a story leaked that the staff now thought they might need to recommend that we go to C. So
Sure.
we've called an emergency meeting, and we will meet this Tuesday at 1:00.
1 o'clock. Okay.
What, what has changed from adopting our plan to this new plan, that, what's the basis for the recommendation. And when the story leaked, I don't know that they had all the details worked out yet. I don't know how long they would propose that we would go to plan C versus shifting back to plan B. I don't know if it's a shift to plan C or just maybe revisions to plan B. It really is early in the process, and I'm just trying to get as much information, as much health information as I can, as much information from schools, principals and teachers, and as much information from parents. I'm going to be in a meeting this Tuesday. A meeting this Monday with Susan Gale Perry, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Chief Deputy Secretary, Dr. Betsy Tilson, the State Health Director, Rebecca Blanchard, the Senior Health Policy Advisor, and Jeff Coltrane, who's the Governor's Education Advisor, just trying to get all of the latest health information that they have, because any decision we want to make, we want to base it on science. People are very opinionated on this subject. They have a lot of emotion, a lot of passion, and they all claim the science supports their particular side. So when I say I support science, I can have people that want to reopen the schools, people that want to close the schools, both say the science supports us. Everyone can make a logical argument, but I really want to go and collect as much as I can before we make this decision.
Well, we appreciate that. A lot of questions coming in. We're sort of changing it up. We're taking these questions live on Facebook while we're on the radio for a few more minutes, and we're going to continue our town hall. So first of all, one question is, you talked to us real quick about the virtual academy, when the application opened, when it ended. And one question that I've gotten from a number of parents is, how will the instructor's format, schedule, and learning management system differ between the Wake Virtual Academy and online instruction? What is the difference between the two in Plan B or Plan C? Okay.
So these are very good questions. The first thing I'll say, because I might not be able to get to every detail, Wake County Public Schools did an open house about the Virtual Academy that's available on their YouTube channel. So that's at WCPSS, Wake County Public School System. And so you can log in, you can watch the open house, and you can see if those questions are answered, and they have an FAQ on the website. So what I'll tell you, what I know is that the Virtual Academy is intended to be a school within a school that will operate uninterrupted regardless of what the rest of the school system does. So students can enroll for a semester or for the entire year. They're encouraged to enroll for the entire year so that if there are problems with phasing back and forth, let's say we go into school under Plan B and numbers spike and then we have to go to C. That'll disrupt all of the plans that we have under the hybrid model, because teachers were planning on doing a week of live instruction, in-person, face-to-face instruction, I should say, and then shifting to remote learning before those students would rotate back in. But now they would have to, if we have to move to a different plan, to a Plan C, it'll interrupt that. Just like if we still go with C and then the numbers get better and we start to bring people back, but then let's say there's an infection in the school. You could have some schools that are open, some schools that are closed. So with C, with Virtual Academy, you would have continuation, a continual instruction for at least the semester, probably the whole year. The way the Academy is set up is that because we have so many people participating from schools around the county, you should be able to have, in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, instructors from your assigned school teaching you in the Virtual Academy. There will be some cases where if you don't have enough students for, say, like a language class at your school participating virtually, you might be combined with students from another school to form a whole class. Maybe you have your teacher for that class, maybe you have the one for the other school. With a Plan B or a Plan C in the remote instruction, you're definitely going to have the teachers that are there at your school, and it will be structured the same way as your school would have been. So, some teachers, some parents, like particular teachers, really want to make sure they're grouped, their children are grouped with their friends. That B or C instruction is probably the best way to do that. Even though with Virtual Academy, we hope those Virtual Academy classes will still draw from that same school. You know,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know you're going to have something closer to your own school under Plan B or C versus the Virtual Academy. It's just that we don't know what's going to happen with interruptions.
Okay. All right. Great. We got one more question before we chime off on the radio, but we're going to continue our town hall. The question I have, and before we let Radio Murchie go, and this will be aired again 4 o'clock tomorrow on Radio Murchie on Sunday. How many are enrolled in the Virtual Academy as of today?
So as of today, I saw 38,000.
Okay.
So that's a really strong number. And if we go back and we change what plan we're recommending, then I think we would go back and we would reopen that window so other families could participate if they wanted to.
Okay. And I think you said this earlier, if we change plans and go to C, if that's decided this week, that we may be able to extend the application period to Virtual Academy.
Absolutely.
Okay. We could go on and on the radio. We want to thank Radio Murchie. And before they leave, I forgot to do it in the beginning, but I usually close out with a message. But today I would just ask that wherever we are today in the Wake County or North Carolina, around the United States, that we just take a moment to be grateful for John Lewis. That such a great American lived among us. And that as we go through tough times, to remember the courage he had as an American. So thank you. And I just wanted to get that out there. I think the rest speaks for itself, that we lost a great American hero today. Thank you for listening to Radio Murchie. And we'll be continuing this town hall now. So thank you so much, Chris. So as we continue, so we talked about the Virtual Academy. How is it, and it may be hard for you to answer, but how did the instructors, the format and schedule differ between online instruction and Virtual Academy? Is it the same thing? Are there some distinct differences? Is that getting too much in the weeds? I mean, I'm just curious as to.
So I don't have all of those details yet. You know, one thing that we are going to do, whether Virtual Academy or a Plan B, Plan C, is that we've heard loud and clear from parents, we have to have one consistent platform. I have 2 kids in the public schools, and for my middle school son, for example, just every day they have to go through, 8 or 9 different platforms, websites, message board, trying to get everything in one place just to figure out what he needed to do every day. That was a huge burden on parents. So we're really going to try, to have all of this a lot more streamlined, a lot more consolidated. The way the staff describes it, what happened in the spring was like being in triage. What you can do to basically treat a patient before you get them in the emergency room. Here, we really want a plan, an educational plan of prescribed treatment, right? So we're going to require more rigorous instruction. It will be graded. That was a problem we had when schools closed last time. That made it difficult for a lot of families to keep their kids involved and engaged. So we'll have graded instruction. It will be rigorous. There will be live instruction. That doesn't mean that we're going to be live streaming the live class for the remote students directly, right? But you would have live teacher attention to the students that are participating remotely. Some of these, and the thing is, it's hard to say exactly what it'll look like because different classes could be taught different ways. Music class might be taught differently than a foreign language class that might be taught differently from a math class. There'll be differences in elementary, what techniques an elementary school teacher uses versus a high school student. But we all know that we have to make improvements from where we were in the spring, and staff has been working very hard on that.
Well, so yeah, there may be some subtle differences, but for those of you listening, it's going to be interactive, engaging, grading, and that they are asking that we commit to 1 semester or possibly a year. So that is, so when you make your decision, think through, talk to your child, have a family discussion of whether you're willing to do that.
Yeah.
And we'll get information about to the community on that. One question came in about a learning management system. Do you know what back-end technology they're using to do the online learning?
I know that they were evaluating them much early in the summer, but that's not a detail.
Yeah, that's not a detail. Yeah, well, we'll get them in touch with the technology team at Wake County. Some of the ones I've heard in the market are Blackboard, which is one that's used by higher education. There's a lot of learning management systems. So continue to chime in your questions, folks, through chat. I've got a few that are coming in through Twitter and on my phone. So we've heard a lot about the virtual academy. Real quickly, let's talk about the good news going on in Morrisville. And I want to thank my colleagues in the council and the citizens. Some of them are on this call with us today on the tremendous progress we've made. So we opened up Parkside Elementary. There was recently some news about additional CIP funding in the next few years for another high school in Morrisville / middle school. So there are efforts being made to continue to look at how to provide more options for schools for our residents. And we thank you for that. Any insight on that?
Well, I just appreciate what a great and engaged community we have in Morrisville. You know, you have town councilors who are very engaged. I've been talking this week with, you know, in addition to you, with, you know, Vicki Scroggins Johnson. We have great PTAs, Parkside, you know, our new elementary school. I know Mark Dixon has been involved in participating in some of the town hall meetings we've been having. I've spoken with, you know, Ms. Rabati, Ms. Fender, so many members of your council that really care about education issues. And I wanted to acknowledge that. You know, Morrisville is special with your education commission, your citizen task force that you have working on these issues. And I think that's important because, you know, as a town, so many decisions that you'll make at the growth and planning level affect our ability to deliver education to you, right? So is there land available for new schools? Can we create these new and exciting, you know, partnerships, like, for example, with Wake Tech? A lot of this just depends on good communication and good cooperation. And I think, you know, I'm just lucky to have a really supportive local government in Morrisville. So
well, we appreciate that. Before we ask the question about funding and assignments and just some basic questions I'm going to ask, talk to us a little bit about the Wake Tech. And we have an educational advisory committee now in Morrisville, and we've got Mark Dixon is going to be chairing that. You know, they're basically put together by the council in town to, basically be providing ideas of how we can address the challenges of schools. You and I have worked on this in the past. Talk a little bit about this idea of a Wake Tech early high school, career high school.
Yeah, so this is a working model we have in other parts of the county. So this wouldn't be creating anything from scratch. We have a working model where Wake County Public Schools works with Wake Technical Community College to set up a special program where, you know, our students, our high school students, can come in, learn advanced skills, learn something more geared toward a certain profession or trade, and get college credits. For some families, especially families where their students might be the first to attend college, it's a wonderful opportunity to kind of bridge that gap from high school to college, get involved in that rigor, that academic exploration. You know, as fantastic a campus as we have, I should say as fantastic a system as we have with Wake Tech, with campuses all over the county, we can have an early college, for example, that concentrates on medical careers. And so, you know, we'll have people participating at one of our early colleges that are getting into areas in the medical field here in the Morrisville area with the Western Wake Tech campus. I see that this will be an academy that will be dedicated to innovation, technology, relying on a lot of partnerships with our RTP companies, you know, both inside Wake County and those outside of Wake County, but still in the Research Triangle Park. And, you know, we still have a lot of flexibility at this point. This might be another, you know, early college, high school. We might be able to set it up as an academy. So we might be able to get some middle school kids in there as well. There's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of options to it. I think Wake County Public Schools and Wake Tech are committed to make it happen, committed to making it happen. There's just been issues with COVID-19 and how this impacts our capital budget. You know, Steve, since I got on the board, I've been working really hard to try to get new schools constructed in the planning phase, you know, out here in Western Wake, where we have so much growth and where so many of our schools are over capacity. Meeting that capacity is a real challenge, but whether it's a new school campus in the Parkside area, whether it's a partnership with Wake Tech. We're working hard to get new schools planned for that area, and I'm going to be excited to open them.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. That's good news to know. And by the way, we just put up on the chat the Wake County School Systems Virtual Academy Open House on YouTube. So anything that you have, we still have about 25 minutes left, so we've got plenty of time, but please ask your questions. So you talked about, that's a great segue into our next question about funding challenges. It was already challenging enough before COVID, but now with the revenues significantly down. Talk to some of the citizens attending today of the funding of the Wake County school system. It's funded, it's a little bit different in that it's not it's funded by the Wake County school commissioners provide money along with the state of North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
How does that process work? And then what are we going through now? How much money did we get this year?
So again, different school systems around the country are funded different ways. Some have their own taxing or budgeting authority. Some are funded entirely local. In North Carolina, funding schools is the constitutional responsibility of the state. So our state constitution says the state will provide a free and basic education plan, a basic education to all North Carolina residents. And what has happened is over the years, I mean, it's my opinion that funding has fallen short, but it's not just my opinion. Education advocates took the state to court for failing in its constitutional duties in a famous lawsuit called the Leandro case.
Right.
The case is decades old. The North Carolina Supreme Court said the state government was negligent, had fallen down in its funding of our public schools. And we've just been waiting and still involved in litigation, trying to get the state government to fund our schools at the level the independent experts and the courts have all come in and agreed, at the level they need to be funded. So where we haven't gotten the state funding we need, we've been fortunate enough in Wake County that Wake County is prosperous enough that our local county has been able to help. Typically, the state was supposed to provides money for teacher salaries, for curriculum, for a lot of important operational needs for the schools, whereas our counties have funded school construction. And in Wake County, especially in recent years, not so much in past years, but the county's done a good job of trying to put more money into new school construction. We had a huge period of growth, though, where our school construction did not keep pace with the growth. School construction costs money, and budget decisions were made not to create the new schools that we needed to adequately fund school seats in areas like Morrisville and Western Wake County where we needed them. The new county commission, the most recent county commissions have been working really hard to change that. And above and beyond that, because of the money we get from the state is not being sufficient for our educational needs here, our county commission comes in and gives us additional money, supplemental money. So for example, the money we get here in Wake County for teacher salaries, if it was the state salary, we wouldn't be competitive with any of the other like metropolitan job markets where people compete. I'm not talking about just the largest cities in America, but the Orlandos, the Atlantas, the Nashvilles, Fairfax, Virginia. It's that local supplement we get from our county commission that makes us more competitive, even if we do lag behind all of those other areas.
So they provide the money, and then you're the ones who decide how the money is spent, where the schools are constructed.
That's right. So for example, with school construction, we take a long-term growth plan, our capital improvement plan, and we might look out 7 years based on our growth projections of where we think the growth will be. Now, sometimes we have that growth, sometimes we don't. So we have to go back and adjust and see where we are at 5 years, where we are at 3 years. Sometimes there'll be a lot of people moving into the area, and we accounted for that, but they don't have kids. A lot of the people that moved in the area that were younger, sort of involved in the tech community, didn't have children. So 2 years ago, we had significantly less growth than we forecast. Then we might have more growth just as new waves of people come in. But even if Wake County as a whole is a very big county. Sometimes we have big growth, sometimes we have smaller growth. Western Wake County, the area we represent, has just had phenomenal growth. And so it's been a struggle to get schools built where those families are. It doesn't do any good if we have an empty school on the other side of the county if kids in our community can't get there.
That's the complaint that we get a lot. And I want to thank Steve Lauderdale, just sent a nice note. I mean, he's a very engaged Morrisville citizen, been a real advocate for schools. I want to thank him and the Kit Creek community. Donna Fender recently, my colleague, drafted came up with the idea of a resolution supporting the CIP plan. So I want to thank her as well and all my colleagues. But the consistent complaint that we get is that the schools are still relatively overcrowded. We have in Morrisville, I just had someone tweet me on my phone, if I'm living on Town Hall Drive, why would I have to not go to Cedar Fork? Why would I have to go to a Cary school, right? Why can't everyone on that strip of road? And I don't want you, I know you may not be able to answer the question, but
right.
These are the issues that come up. And
well, it's basically, here's the thing. If we had a school and we planned for the growth and then we had everybody assigned, we assigned all the neighborhoods, based on how many people were living in town. And then you came in and you built a brand new development on Town Hall Drive that wasn't there. Do those new families who move in, should they bump out the people that have already been going to that school and that have been involved in the PTA and who've been working with those teachers? It's a tough argument. It'd be nice to keep everybody going to the school maybe that's closest to them, but do you want to disrupt everybody else who've been part of that community, whose family has been going to that school, just because someone decided to build a house closer to it? I mean, that doesn't seem very fair either. So in some cases, the growth patterns we have, and again, this is where we talk about growth as a municipal issue. If you start building new communities next to schools that are already full, you either have to push out the kids that are already in that school, and they're going to be upset, or you've got to send the people that are moving to that area further away to get to a school that has open seats. So
right.
How do we balance that? I mean, everyone wants either the school they've been going to or the closest school, and we can't have both.
I mean, that's a great point. And I think that a couple more questions are coming in. And folks, please continue. We've got some extra time here with Chris. This notion of overcrowded schools and mobile classrooms has come up. So every now and then the Wake County School Board staff will have to come present to our council. Is that just something that we're going to continue to do? We've been getting some feedback about different things, and just we can't talk too much in detail about it because we have to go through a special use hearing. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, Steve, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have any kids in any mobile classrooms. I'd have them in a normal school building. Most of the mobile classrooms are there to accommodate additional students, growth, more kids in the area than the school was intended to support. But if we suddenly got rid of all those trailers, mobile classrooms, cottages of excellence, I don't know what you want to call them, what do you do with the kids who need them to attend that school? You'd have to push them out, and they would have to go out to a school further away. And again, that would be disruptive for so many parents. So I think what we try to do is, as we evaluate, as we build new schools, as we reassign students to new schools, we try to reduce that crowding at each of those schools. So at Panther Creek, for example, that's a school that has heavily relied on mobile classrooms. When the new Green Level school was built, and we're able to shift more students in the Panther Creek and Green Hope and Apex area into Green Level, we're able to bring those numbers down, and then hopefully we can start to retire some of those mobile classrooms. We don't want to get rid of all of them, because again, if you're building new houses right next to Panther Creek, we're going to need them. But hopefully, as we build new schools and then shift and try to get new residents into new schools, and then let the families that are in their existing schools finish up there, we can get everything rebalanced and try to figure it out.
Okay, and this all comes down to funding. So if my memory serves me right, during this pandemic, with the only silver lining in the cloud is with revenues significantly down in Wake County. They passed about a $1.1 billion budget. no additions to staff, continued their investments in affordable housing. But you got about 515 million, the school board. I think that's the number that, were you all satisfied with? It seemed like that was an additional from what you all were expecting, correct?
So the amount that we got from the county commission was less than our superintendent had requested, based
Okay,
on what we thought we would need to, again, do what we had been doing and then manage new growth, right? There are all of these years that we weren't properly funded, that we're trying to go back and renovate school buildings, trying to improve like teacher pay in some areas, modernize some programs. But we understand it's a pandemic. We understand people are hurting. It's a recessionary economy, and we understand those budget restrictions. So the original county budget was going to have a larger reduction from what we said we would need to what we would get. But we worked out a good compromise. We worked very hard with the county commissioners, and what they said was, let's at least keep the same number of dollars per student consistent. So it still won't be what the superintendent thought we would need with COVID and with everything else out there. But for a county faced with declining revenue, they made the commitment at least to make sure that we had the same number of dollars per student as we had the previous year. And so we're looking at things like CARES money that could be available for how we can get the cleaning and the personal protective equipment supplies for our schools. You know, we were hopeful there would be more federal money that might come down. It looks like some of that money, the state board has said, should be used to address school funding issues under the Leandro decision, rather than things like, you know, childcare to help with some of the reopening plans that we have and the burdens that those reopening plans have on working families. You know, we're still out there. We're talking with the YMCAs and with local parks and recreation departments, trying to figure out ways that we can partner with them to provide services that'll help us with our reopening. Because, I mean, we know this isn't going to be easy for anyone.
okay, yeah. Now, and we have a few more minutes. I mean, this all comes down to money at the end of the day, in terms of demand, you know, the growth that we're facing as a state. I've heard Senator Chowdhury, who serves on some education committees, talk about the fact that if the General Assembly did provide more money, that it would help all the schools of the state. And so
Yeah.
if you're concerned about overcrowding schools, the state can invest more in education. So the reason I make that point is it's important, if you're living in Morrisville, to understand that the city councilors, there's a limit to what we can do. There's a limit to what the county can do, but the legislature does have the ability to invest in education. So that's just a thought to get out there to socialize amongst us, right? And we are making our efforts more.
And to Senator Chaudhry's point, you know, the legislature went home for the summer, but they're coming back in the fall. And so I know a lot of our teachers have a lot of anxiety right now about, will we have adequate supplies for cleaning? Who's going to do this cleaning? Who's going to take kids' temperatures? We don't even have funding right now for a nurse in every building. You know, they have to rotate between buildings. And I know a lot of our teachers are really hoping that if schools are going to reopen on a Plan B schedule, that the legislature provide additional funding so that they can do their job, which is teach, and have some extra personnel who can take care of getting kids in school, screening them, diagnosing them. Don't expose the teachers to that risk. Let them teach our kids, and then try to get the help we need to let everyone in and out of the building safely.
Teacher pay today is, I think, 22nd in America too. So we want to make sure we're recruiting good teachers. Per pupil spending could be higher. So I think a lot of these things, has there ever been any thought? Now it's probably off the table, but there's been talk about a statewide school construction bond. Mm-hmm. That could help Wake County, correct?
It could. Any money for school construction is especially going to help us in Wake County. I know that the school construction bond that they proposed, a lot of that would have gone to some more needy districts in poor rural North Carolina. Honestly, Steve, in the operation of our schools, our biggest budgetary needs, the biggest budget item we have is personnel. You know, we have so many schools and so many teachers. And, you know, even like operating the schools for one additional day is close to $1 million in operating costs. You know, so what can we do to help those teachers. For every teacher that's required to attend to all of their students, all of their care, all of their needs, could we help that if we had teaching assistants that could come in and take some of those duties off the teacher and let the teacher focus on core instruction? Could we have more administrative help in the schools? Could we get the counseling and the social workers that we need in addition, to more teachers? The state has required us to reduce our class sizes, which is good in that it helps, get kids more individual instruction, but then they haven't provided us any additional funds to kind of, and they say, I need to be clear, they give us additional money each year, but to have the money that it would cost to take those classes, separate them up, we have to go through a process to apply for waivers and other things where we can't meet those limits because we can't hire all of the teachers that we would need to accommodate all of these smaller classes. And that's something that they could revisit. So there's a couple of ideas.
And we've also funded schools in Wake County through the school construction bonds. So
Yeah.
we've done a number of years. Have they held off on those bonds coming up, or are they gonna?
Yeah, I think especially with COVID-19, you won't see any school bonds on this year's ballot. There's still construction needs, but right now we just want to pull together as a community and get through this first.
And just a reminder for those, in addition to Senator Chaudhary, we've got a good delegation in Wake County. Representative Gail Adcock, Representative Cynthia Ball in the House, Representative Joe John, who used to represent Morrisville, and then Senator Wiley Nickel, who represents all of Morrisville, Cary, and parts of Raleigh. So these are legislators, I think, that we need to continue to advocate about schools, right? My final policy question before we come back to what we were talking about earlier for those who joined on, I want to end with just basically the pragmatic approach of how do we get back to a new normal, and maybe a quick refresher on the virtual academy. But let's take policy real quickly. So your late father was from West Virginia. I'm from West Virginia. John Chambers, whom I'm inviting to come keynote our address, is from Startup Summit, is from West Virginia. And both John Chambers, there's another West Virginian, Alec Ross, who's written this fascinating book. He grew up in Charleston, where I grew up, called New Industries of the Future. And there's a common theme between what him and John talk about, which is sort of new job creation and new industries and new skill sets. So what Dr. Ross mentions in his book, and he served as Secretary of Innovation for Hillary Clinton, is that almost every industry that we know of that is going to exist in the next 5 years or job doesn't exist today. I mean, that's a really profound statement. And many of them are in emerging technologies like AI, analytics, robotics, STEM, engineering, all kinds of things. So how is it, in your opinion, as a school board member, how is the role changing as a policymaker in terms of developing an educational system that is flexible enough to deal with a world where there may be careers out there for our children that don't even exist today because the job doesn't exist? And John Chambers has said that we're going to automate away 40% of the jobs that we know of today, but we can create 15 million new jobs in startups. So that may be a good opportunity for our kids. So what are your thoughts on that?
And I apologize, I had to mute the sound there. My neighbors decided to run the lawn equipment right as we close out the interview. So I hope this is coming through okay. I don't know that I can. Hold on one second. Let me turn it back to you.
It's okay, folks. We got Chris Heagerty online, and this is the new normal. We got to get used to the lawnmowers and the kids coming downstairs. Wi-Fi may not work, so hey, this is okay. This is a little live practice of what new normal looks like, and we gotta get used to it. I just got another question from Facebook before we get your answer. Okay, that's a great question, Brian. When Chris gets back, we're going to ask him that question. We're going to let him finish his thought. We got 10 more minutes. We're not on the radio anymore, so we have until 1 o'clock actually. He's coming back any second now. So for Facebook friends, this is a great question from Brian Cernak. He says, how are high school students going to take their SAT tests? We move to Plan C. Are you back, Chris?
Done what I can do. Sorry about the background noise.
It's okay. It wasn't too bad. Well, finish up your thought there, and then we have a really, really great question from another engaged citizen.
So I was just going to say, in terms of technology and everything, I don't have the resume that the founder of Cisco has. But I will say that already just how things have changed in the year that we've had, 2020, I mean, has been very disruptive. You wonder about how all of these students all getting Chromebooks and using Chromebook as the platform might change things. You wonder about, this early utilization, early adoption of technology much earlier than we would have used normally, how that will impact children and their learning and, their aptitude and the ability to integrate it later later in their educational process. So those are all things that we're looking at and that we are taking very seriously. But in terms of where the next great job market is or what that'll be, I really don't know.
Well, Wake Tech is doing great stuff. I mean, with Tom Looney, the great leadership that he's done as a former chair of the Wake County Board, with just all kinds of apprenticeships and internships even for high school students. So I think you're going to start seeing this, and so I love the idea that we talked about the Wake Career High School. But I just wanted to ask that question, and please ask your colleagues. We want to thank all of your colleagues, including Chairman Sutton and all the school board members, for their hard work and dedication to our children. One final question, and then we're going to do a little wrap up, maybe just get some parting advice for you preparing for Tuesday. So got a message from Russ Swindell saying, thank you for all you're doing, Chris. Thank you, Russ. This is from someone who asked a great question. How are high school students going to take their SAT tests if we move to Plan C?
Okay.
I mean, so many, and these seniors and juniors are having to get ready for college. So how is that going to work?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. And that's one that, it requires a lot of coordination with our private partners who conduct and administer these tests. I'll tell you that earlier this year, in the spring, we had some real problems. I had problems with College Board and some of the restrictions they were putting on some of our students that were trying to get makeup days for their AP exams, and there was zero flexibility. And the staff at Wake County Public Schools and at the individual high schools and our school board members all worked very hard to try to get some accommodation. We didn't get it. So with both the SAT and the ACT, I am concerned about what will be available. And I want us to be able to be creative and explore other options. If there's a problem, for example, getting into the school buildings, can we partner with our local governments, like Raleigh Parks and Rec, Morrisville Parks and Rec, for community centers and other spaces right now that are vacant, that are clean, and that could be used to have more socially distanced testing sites. I think even if we reopen the buildings, we can't reopen them to fill the classrooms. So I think we will still need to find additional space somewhere else. So this is a priority of mine. I don't have all the answers, and I don't know what we're getting told from our private providers yet, but it is going to take efforts going, I think, beyond just the schools in order to be able to accommodate everybody, because I don't want any student that's planning on taking the test, especially if their tests in the spring were canceled, to miss this opportunity. So this has to be a priority of ours.
There'll be more information about that coming. One final question before we have you wrap up. Wake County Athletics has been suspended, and this is around the state. Even if they did the virtual academy, would they still be open to doing extracurriculars, or we just don't know now?
So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg argument. So at one level, if you're in the virtual academy or even Plan C, you would still be eligible for whatever extracurriculars and sports that are offered, but there may not be extracurriculars and sports offered. So if we stay in Plan B and you're in the virtual academy, but you wanted to participate in sports, you wouldn't participate in the academy's team or anything. You'd participate on the team or in the club where you're assigned. So if you were on the Enloe speech and debate team and you're in the virtual academy and you still did want to go and participate virtually or even live in whatever activities are going on at that school, you could, right? If you had cross country, for example, as thinking about a sport maybe with some social distancing, and it was not suspended, but you were in virtual academy, you could still go and try out and participate in those sports. There'll still be logistical questions, how you'd have to provide your own transportation probably. But being a virtual academy would not disqualify you from any of those activities. The problem is just under COVID, so many of these activities are going to get curtailed or restricted until numbers change, that I just don't know which ones would be available and which ones wouldn't.
Well, that's good to know that folks are willing to, that they can do extracurricular and those kinds of things. And we hope that we can get back to sports. I guess before you wrap up, one question came in, and we still have about 8 more minutes left, about transportation. So yeah, Friday was the last day to get their transportation changes if they don't need it. They're going to do virtual. When we do go back to busing, that's going to change a lot in terms of the cleaning of the buses, the social distance. So some parents are concerned about so the school system's looking at transportation, transit, right? How it's affected.
Yeah. So honestly, one of the best things that could be done to help social distancing, to help a Plan B system work and get more kids in school, would be for every family that doesn't need to ride the bus, not to ride the bus. Plain and simple. The social distancing on the buses is hard to achieve. Originally, they told us we couldn't have more than 8 riders on a bus. Now they're saying that we could have as many as 22 on the bus if everyone's wearing a mask. Even then, there's some questions about, is that healthy? Is that not healthy? But when you have bus ridership, that can be 30 or 40 kids, depending on, what grade you're in. Think about right now, Steve, we have bus routes that might take an hour or more. If you can only keep half of your ridership and you don't have more bus drivers, which we don't, even if we have more buses, we don't have to buy buses, we don't have more bus drivers. You have to run that bus, its whole route for the hour, get those kids to school, stop it, clean it, disinfect it, and then go out and run that second route again. You're going to start staggering how long it takes to get those kids in school, and then how long it takes those kids to get home. So I know the deadline is passed now. I don't know if we can get them to reopen it or not, but I really wish as many families that could opt out of that transportation, if they don't need it, would, because to me, it seems like it's less of an inconvenience to have to take your kids into school than to have to come up with additional childcare for your kids, because we can't get as many kids into the schools, right? Going forward, how all of this impacts us, I mean, there's going to be a lot of lessons learned. I think transportation will change. I think how we do some of our extracurriculars, some of our assemblies, there's a lot of things, even just, hand washing stations and making sure people are washing hands and keeping some distance. It's a lot to consider, and we don't have all the answers yet.
Well, I mean, well, thank you so much for answering that. So we want to so what is your final parting words? Just to maybe some quick reminders. We've got the virtual academy, right? You're meeting on Tuesday to decide what plan we're going to go to. Any other things that we need to be thinking about as a home, things that we should be talking about at the table about our schooling and for our kids?
Ultimately, everyone's going to have to make the right decision for their kids with whatever guidelines we get from the state, and trying to follow whatever rules that we have to give. I'll be the first. I have 2 kids in the system. I know your oldest graduated, but you still have, a son in Wake County Public Schools. Any operation of the schools while COVID-19 is around is going to be difficult. It's going to be a burden. And, there's a lot of things that are just creating a lot of pain and a lot of hardship for families. And in a lot of cases, there's not a lot we can do to address it under the rules that we've been given. So, make the right decision that's right for your family. Don't judge other families and their decisions. Do what you can to keep you and your family safe. And if you can keep others safe as well, we can all get through this a lot faster. I'm hopeful that the more that can be done to limit exposure and stop the spread of the disease, the faster we can get back to where we were before. Even if it looks different in the future, I know that we all want to be back with kids in the classrooms, in front of teachers, learning in face-to-face instruction. That's ultimately the goal. And whatever we have to do to get back to that by stopping the spread or slowing the spread of the disease, I think that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah, so remember, wear your masks, wash your hands, and social distance wait, the 3 W's. We did a video in Morrisville on that, all the council members. So important to spread the virus, to contain the spread of the virus. We want to thank you, Chris, for all you do for Wake County, all of what your colleagues do. I want to thank the citizens of Morrisville and the Triangle for attending. And as I said earlier, we pray today for America, for John Lewis, the great American hero. On that note, I want to congratulate Stormy Ford, who became the first Black woman to be appointed to the Raleigh City Council. That's a great day for Raleigh.
And she's the Wake County Public School System graduate, by the way.
Yes, very good. And I'm also the proud parent of Wake County Schools. I'm wearing my Catamount shirt here, Go Catamounts.
There you go.
I was a Green Hope Falcon, and if you're a Catamount tennis player, get out there. And I've been hitting every day. I'm going to start challenging you guys to some matches. And that's me in the Zoom background with Chris Heagerty at the graduation with a mask. So it just shows you the new normal that we're living in. And we didn't talk about mask requirements, but that's also being required by the governor and by for kids, kindergarten, middle school, and high school along back home. So thank you, folks. Just the other thing, it's National Parents Day. So I want to wish everyone a very happy National Parents Day. There's almost a day for everything every day. But National Parents Day is today, and there's a celebration at Northwest Park at 5 o'clock this evening, and then I'll be doing a virtual event at 6 o'clock. But Chris, thank you. Thank you for everything. Stay cool out there, folks. Enjoy a great weekend, and we'll be back next week for a town hall with, thank you, Mark Dixon. We will be back for another town hall next Thursday with Michael Landguth from the RDU Airport.
All right.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.